your kid at? Where your cars? Where your crib? Where you live at?
Well, new this morning, a 36-year-old woman has been found dead with multiple gunshot wounds to the head in southeast Atlanta.
Detectives say this happened on Springside Place, just south of Cleveland Avenue. The call came in early this morning around 1:20, with police finding the woman in the driver's seat of an SUV in the middle of the road.
We're still trying to figure that out. We're still looking for video cameras in the area. We know that we've got a general idea of the route that was taken, so we're going to have to backtrack some information to figure out the exact circumstance, if anybody was with her or not.
Investigators do not think the woman lives in the neighborhood. So far, they have not released her identity.
She was 2 semesters away from becoming a nurse. She had a Range Rover. She had a rap career that was picking up steam. She had a baby on the way. She had everything to live for. So, why is she gone? Her name was Qualeisha Barnes. Most people in Detroit knew her growing up just as Lily, the funny one, the jokester, the girl who could walk into a room and immediately make it warmer. But the world outside of Detroit knew her as Siditty, a rapper with her own sound, her own style, and her own lane. Anyways, let me tell you something about this woman, because she was not just one thing. She had layers. She had been living in the Atlanta area for close to a decade by the time her life was taken, and in that time, she was not sitting still. She was enrolled in nursing school, and she was not just showing up. She made the dean's list. She was proud of herself. Her family was proud of her. 2 more semesters, and she would have had that degree in her hands. On top of school, she had her music. Siditty was not just a hobby. It was an identity. She poured herself into it. She had her own boutique. She bought herself a Range Rover and showed it off the way people do when they have worked hard enough to deserve it. She was out here building something real. And then, on top of all of that, she was pregnant. 14 weeks. So when you picture who Qualeisha Barnes was, picture a woman who was doing everything at once and somehow still making it work. Music, nursing, business, motherhood on the horizon. That was her. That was Lily. Now, during all of this, Qualeisha had started seeing someone. And here is where things get complicated. The man she was involved with was married. He treated her well, at least in the beginning. She did not hide it. She posted about how he treated her. Things looked good on the surface. But then she found out she was pregnant. And according to people close to her, when she told him, he did not celebrate. He did not step up. He told her to get rid of it. Now, this man had just had a baby of his own with his wife. So you can imagine what the news of another pregnancy meant for him. The fear of what that would expose, what it would cost him, what it would unravel. That fear, according to Qualeisha's family, is exactly what got her killed. She said no. She was keeping her baby. And that decision, that moment of a woman choosing her child, became, in the eyes of her family, the moment that sealed her fate. Moving on, because what comes next is the part that no one should ever have to hear about someone they love. It was early morning, April 8th, 2026. Just after 1 in the morning, Atlanta police received a call about a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Qualeisha inside her vehicle. She was unresponsive. She had been shot 4 times in the face. She was pronounced dead at the scene. A neighbor in the area later described hearing 4 or 5 gunshots and then seeing a car speed away. Atlanta police determined that someone had fired through the windshield and fled. Like she was sitting in her car, her own car, the Range Rover she had worked for, and someone pulled up and ended everything. She was 36 years old, she was 14 weeks pregnant, and she never made it to morning. When Atlanta police got to that scene, they were not walking into a simple situation. There was a body, there was a car with a shot-through windshield, there were shell casings, and there was a neighborhood that had heard the whole thing happen but could not tell them who did it or why. What they did have was security footage. Cameras in the area had captured movement around the time of the shooting, and investigators began working backwards, trying to piece together the route that was taken, who was with her, and whether anyone else was present in that car when the shots came through. Girl, the fact that someone fired through the windshield tells you something. That was not a random shooting. You do not pull up on a parked car in the middle of the night and fire 4 shots through the windshield by accident. That is targeted. That is intentional. That is personal. Atlanta police opened a formal homicide investigation and kept the case active. But in the days and weeks that followed, no arrest was announced publicly. No suspect was officially named. The investigation was still moving, still building, but answers were not coming fast enough for the people who loved her. And her family was not going to sit in silence while that happened. Her mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, stepped.
I know her as Lily. I know her as we in the same house, in the same bed. That's what I know her as. All that friend stuff, I don't care about none of that. That was my sister. That was my baby.
Give us the strength that we need to survive.
Hand in hand in prayer, the family of Qualeisha Barnes asked God for strength while coming to terms with her senseless killing. And it's moments like this that are helping them deal with her death.
Generally, if you met Lily, you instantly loved her. And she was such a jokester, you know. She liked to laugh, and she always cracking jokes on me.
Barnes's mom, Francine Lopez Stewart, says her rap name fits her perfectly.
In front of cameras and spoke, and she did not hold back. She talked about who her daughter really was. She talked about the dean's list. She talked about the nursing degree that was 2 semesters away and would now never happen. She talked about Qualeisha's love for makeup, for fashion, for beauty, and how the rap name Siditty fit her perfectly because that was just who she was. But beyond the grief, there was something else in what her mother said. There was a belief, a firm, clear belief, that this was not the work of one person alone. Her mother said it plainly. She believed her daughter had been set up, that more than one person played a role in what happened that night. And in her words, if you instigate something that causes a murder, then you need you need something. You know, I think you need to go to jail, too. Period. She was not just asking for the person who pulled the trigger. She wanted everyone who had a hand in putting her daughter in that position to be held accountable. Every single one of them. And then there was her sister. Because if the mother's words carried weight, the sister's words carried something heavier. Something that cut right through everything and reminded you that behind every victim is a family that will carry this forever. Her sister said, I know her as Qualeisha. I know her as Lily. I know her as we in the same house, in the same bed. That's what I know her as. All that friend stuff. I don't care about none of that. That was my sister. That was my baby. Like, let that land for a second. This was not a headline to her. This was not a case number. This was the person she grew up with, the person she shared a bed with, her person, and now she was gone. The family also spoke about something that many people in cases like this tend to overlook. The unborn baby. Nia was 14 weeks pregnant when she was killed. That baby never got a chance either. 2 lives were taken that night, not 1. And the family made sure people understood that. They gathered together, they prayed together, and they made clear to anyone watching that they were not going anywhere until justice was served. Now, here is the part that needs to be said, because it happened and it cannot be ignored. When news of Qualeisha's death spread online, not everyone responded with grief. Some people, and this is real, this actually happened. Some people went online and said she brought it on herself, that she should not have been involved with a married man. that the situation she was in was her own fault. Oh, so now, a woman getting shot 4 times in the face while pregnant is something she deserved because of who she was dating. Make it make sense. Look, people can have opinions about choices. That is fine. But there is a line between having an opinion about someone's relationship decisions and using those decisions to justify their murder. Those are 2 very different conversations. Her family addressed it too. They acknowledged that people were divided, and still, even in the middle of their grief, they had to defend their daughter's right to be alive. So what? She was not perfect? Neither is anyone. But imperfect people do not deserve to be shot in the face in their own car in the middle of the night. Full stop. What happened to Qualeisha Barnes was not a consequence. It was a choice that someone else made. And that someone else, not her, is the one who needs to answer for it. At the time this story was being put together, Atlanta police had not made a public arrest. The investigation was still active, still moving. Detectives were working through the security footage, backtracking the route, and trying to confirm the full picture of who was with Qualeisha that night and who was responsible for what happened to her. What the family had shared publicly pointed strongly in one direction: the fear of a married man whose life was about to be upended by a pregnancy he did not want. A man who had just welcomed a child with his wife and now had a second one coming from another woman. According to the people closest to Qualeisha, that fear is what drove everything that followed. But fear is not a confession. And suspicion, no matter how well-founded, is not a conviction. What can be said is this: the family was watching. The community was watching. And cases that start with this much public attention and this much family pressure do not quietly disappear. The people who loved Qualeisha made sure of that. Her mother made it clear she was not looking for one arrest. She was looking for everyone involved to be held accountable. The person who pulled the trigger, the person who helped plan it, anyone who played a role in putting her daughter in that car that night, in that position, with no way out. Moving on because the legal process will do what it does. But Qualeisha's story does not begin and end in a courtroom. It begins and ends with who she was. She was 2 semesters away from becoming a nurse. Think about what that means for a second. Not just as a fact, but as a picture. Someone who made the dean's list. Someone who was juggling school and music and a business and a pregnancy and still showing up, still pushing, still going. She was not waiting for life to get easier before she started living it. She was living it in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of all of it. And she was winning. Her rap name was Siditty. Her family called her Lily. And no matter what name you knew her by, the people who loved her will tell you the same thing. If you met her, you loved her. She was a jokester. She was warm. She was the kind of person who made a room feel different just by walking into it. And now that room is empty. Her unborn child never got a name, never got a first breath, never got a chance. 2 lives were taken on that street in Atlanta in the early hours of that morning. One the world is still grieving, one the world never got to meet. Let me tell you something. Stories like this do not just break hearts. They expose something. They expose what happens when a woman's life is seen as a problem to be solved instead of a person to be valued. They expose what happens when someone decides that their fear, their reputation, their comfort is worth more than another human being's existence. Qualeisha Barnes chose her baby. She chose her future, she chose herself, and somebody took that from her. Her family is still out here, still speaking, still pushing for every person responsible to face what they did. And if you have any information about what happened that night in Atlanta, the right thing to do is come forward. Anyways, to the family of Qualeisha Barnes, Francine, her sister, everyone who called her Lily and loved her before the world knew her name, We see your grief, and we honor it. To Qualeisha herself, you were building something real, something worth seeing through. And the fact that you never got to finish it is not lost on anyone paying attention. Her name was Qualeisha Barnes. She went by Siditty in the streets. She was a rapper, a nursing student, an entrepreneur, and a mother who never got to hold her child. She deserved to see every single one of those chapters through. I said what I said. If this story moved you, share it. Because the more people who know her name, the harder it becomes to forget what happened to her. And the harder it becomes to forget, the closer we get to justice. This is Unheard Cries TV. We tell the stories that do not always make the front page. We say the names that deserve to be remembered. And we do not stop until the people who need to hear them do. Stay safe out there, and we will see you in the next one.